Alright, so now that we have the model done, for the people that are doing the carbon fiber stuff, like myself, who are 3D printing molds, obviously we need a flange area and to close off any holes, anything like that, so that way it's a mold, really. So this is going to be another video tutorial like the other one that's really just tedious, long, but hopefully informative. So I have a new file saved, so that way I'm not destroying my old one. And so now I'm just going to treat it like I would if I was doing it on the table. So first things first, I'm going to flip it upside down, 180 degrees. And now in 3D Max, when you're working with a 2D shape like I am, there's a front face and the back face. The back face, as you can see, is black. The front face has a tone to it. So what you have to do is select all the polygons, so Control A, and click the flip button. Now, as you can see, it's flipped inside out. So now this is good. This is what we want. This is our front-facing object now. So now what I'm going to do is, just because of how I would look at it, is I just want the mold to be laid out kind of like this. Just personal preference. So I'm going to make the object color black by going here. And then what I'm going to do is just give it a material. And pressing M opens up Material Editor. So I'm just assigning a random color. Reason why I did this is if I press F4 and I click off of it, now my wireframe is black, but my material color is green or whatever you want it to be. So first things first is the oil cap. Now what I'm doing on the CG side when I make the flanges, I also kind of like to give myself a reference, kind of like cut lines. So before I start doing this, what I want to do is go and Control A, select all the polygons, see where it says smoothing groups. You want to click clear all, and you just want to click on one. And then what I'll also do for the version of the tutorial, so now let me move my, I hate doing this, but for the sake of the tutorials, it is important. So here you have your material editor, and pressing M opens it up. Here you'll probably have it be standard or something, and if you don't have it displayed like this, you might have it kind of like this, which is not my cup of tea. So if you click on modes and you click compact, it switches it to these spheres. So what you want to do is click on where it says standard or whatever it is up here, this top right button, and you want to change it to a multi-sub object. So for me, it's taking a second to open up my actual, oh, there we go, crash. So 1 second. All right, I restarted the software. So I'm just clicking on this button again that says V-Ray for me, but you might have something else. And now I am going to change it to a multi-sub object material. Now I'm going to do set ID to 2, and you'll see what this does in a second. So where it says none, click on the word none, and now change it to whatever you want. I did standard legacy, so that's the one I chose. So this is going to be the mold surface. So let's say if you treat it like a mold, I'm going to make this one orange. Now what I'm going to do for just personal visibility is I'm going to make the flanges a different color. So let's say green. So this way you can identify what's what. So now, with our whole thing being object ID 1, we also have this thing called polygon material IDs. So whatever you make 2 changes to that green color. And this actually doesn't contrast enough. So let's just do this. So there we go. Now, and I'll give it a little bit of a highlight just so it looks prettier in the viewport for myself. All right, so I'm going to set this ID to 1, and now what I'm going to do is just start creating my flanges. So the first thing is this oil cap area. So like I mentioned, I like to kind of give myself cut lines or reference markers of where the cut will be. So what I'm going to do first is select the border tool, select the inside circle, and click cap. Now I'm going to set this ID to 2. And a smoothing group, it could be whatever you want. I'm just going to do it to 2. So there we go. So now I have this as a flange that's capped off. So now what I'm also going to do is click extrude and just going to offset it just a little bit like this. And now I am going to click insert and just insert it like this. All right. Now I am going to do the edge mode. Select these edges by double clicking on one of them. Hold Control and press backspace. And that gets rid of the edges and the vertices. And the reason why that, if you do just backspace, you still have the vertices hovering. So that's why you want to do Control backspace. Now what I'm going to do again is do another insert and just a few times. That's it. And the reason for that is when we turbo smooth it, the other thing is when you turbo smooth it, you want to make sure smoothing groups is on. And that's where that number 2 or whatever object you put in here, so you can make it 3, 4, all the way to 32. And this way, whatever's a separate element, it will make that separation razor sharp and change. So now as you can see, we capped off the oil cap. And so now when you're laying down the carbon fiber or whatever, you have a little hump to show you. Now, again, because we are working inside out, what I'll probably do is the opposite. So I'm going to do cap, just like we did, but instead of extruding outward, I'm going to do inward. So like this, and now I'm just going to insert it like that, maybe a little less. There we go. And then I'm going to insert it again a few times, blah, blah, blah. And now if you want to just select all of them instead of doing it manually, just select this center polygon, press this grow button a few times, and that will select them. So now you can set the material ID number 2 and a smoothing group of 2. So now, if you take a look at this, there we go. And if you really don't want it to be rounded off any further, what you can do is same thing, and now change the center part to smoothing group 3, or you could even do 1. As long as they're not touching, it will create a razor sharp transition. So now as you can see, there's that. So the next thing I'm going to do is go over here, and the beautiful thing about the flange process, it can be pretty sloppy. So I am going to bridge this over, go in here, and I'm just going to go to the cap button again, border, cap. Cap is only allowed to be selected or clicked on if you have the border tool selected. And now what I'm going to do is just go across and cut these up. So like that. And I'm just creating edges across the surface. So then I'm going to do just swift loop. Again, the shortcuts. Watch the other tutorial about these things. All right. Now I'm just going to select these insides, make it a ID of 2. Make sure you do clear all, and just a polygon 2. So now when we have the object smooth, now when you're laying down the carbon fiber, you don't have a hole. You literally just closed it all off. So there we go. All right. So there's that. Now we have this hole right here that we can close off. So that way it's just a little easier to lay down the fabric. And this is just based on my opinion and my experience. So I could be completely wrong of what makes it easier or harder, but here we go. I'm going to set this to number 2, smoothing group 2. There we go. So we are slowly closing things off. So now let's just tackle this monster right here, the middle. So I am going to select this edge and then this edge, and then you can't select it on the back side or it wasn't working. I'm just going to bridge across, select those. So there we go. Now what I want to do is just kind of work my way into the inside, if you will. So I'm just going to do a few swift loops, and I'm just kind of eyeballing how many it takes to do what. So right there, and right there. All right. So now I'm just going to set these to material ID 2, and for the moment, smoothing group 2, so I could at least get an idea of what I'm looking at. All right, perfect. Now what we're going to do is probably going to go all the way from there to, as you can see, we have a lot more edges here than we do here. So we could either add more ourselves or not, and I think for the sake of just convenience, I will. So I'm just going to connect it by 2, like that. This way I can just do that there, that there. Make sure you're not ruining the flow of the geometry. That looks fine. Awesome. And so now I can literally go from there all the way out to here. Perfect. Go from this edge to this one. There we go. Select that. Now select the border tool, deselect these outsides, so that way we could just bridge right across. Perfect. Now I'm going to see what happens if I just do bridge. So as you can see, we get triangles. So that means we have more polygons on one side than the other. And actually, I may have selected that. So we still do. We have more polygons on this side than we do on that side. So for us to do this, we either have to remove stuff from this side, add stuff from this side, or manually add the flow. So what I'm going to do for the moment is, without having to focus on adding more into my actual mold surface or the actual hero part, I'm just going to go ahead and bridge these, connect those, give this material ID 2, smoothing group 2. So now as you can see, we're starting to close it off slowly. Alright, so now I'm just going to connect these two right there, bridge it over, perfect. Alright, 2, clear all 2. See, now we're starting to get somewhere. Slowly closing it off. Alright, now let's see what we have here. And again, this is the flange area. So this could be a little bumpy and messy. It does not matter because this is not our actual mold. So let's see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 edges on this side and only 2 to work with. So I'll just do a quick little connect. Now we have 4 and 4. That should bridge across perfectly. My focus is not to distort anything on the actual hero surface. So there we go. 2, smoothing group 2. Now we're starting to close it off. All right, now we broke up this one big monster into 2 little segments. Perfect. So now what I'm going to do is, I like to keep it as simple as a workflow as possible. So I'm just going to go ahead and bridge that. So now I'm just going to do a quick little sloppy selection like this. Let's see what that does. So we have more selected there than there. Let's see. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. So that means we got to simplify it a bit. There we go. I'm going to quickly connect it there. And see, I am now just kind of going at it, just throwing polygons around. It gets very simple for the flange stuff when you don't care about creating bumps, because this is just the excess area. This is not as critical as actual mold surface. So there we go. And with the beauty of smoothing groups, it does not ruin your actual hero part. So there we go. So as you can see, this area can be messy. I don't care, as long as my mold is beautiful. And that's what the smoothing groups do. It creates a razor sharp edge, and if you're 3D printing and melts plastic, it doesn't even matter. Alright, now I'm just going to bridge across there. Perfect. Now let's see here. I'm just doing swift loops. I'm just throwing in, just BSing my way through it, just enough to have something to work with. And again, it's that logic of less is more. The more edges you have, the more annoying it's going to be to work with. So I'm actually going to go blend these edges, ring, collect those. I'm just going to go in and collapse these. Here we go. I don't want to have a lot of segments to work with on the end of the flange. It's just going to get very, very messy and annoying. I'd rather have it less and smooth it all out. Alright, so select these, 2 and 2. See, still looking good. I don't care about this bump. There's bumps and surface imperfections here. Does not matter. My mold is beautiful. That's all that I care about. And we have these nice little crisp edges, so that way when the part's out of the mold, it's easy to trim the fat. Alright, so now we have this little corner here, and let's see here. The way I'll approach this one is I'll actually extend it out, and then from here, just like that. And again, now I'm just kind of winging it. So let's see here. I just wanted it to be away from the surface. So now I could actually go in and do stuff like this. And as you can see, the operation is the same. Swift loop, bridge. And then here, cap. All right, perfect. Make sure we just have that selected. All right, ID2, smoothing group 2. There we go. It's bumpy. I don't care. I just want to be able to throw things together and create a closed off thing. All right, there's that. And I'll do one more because it doesn't really matter. All right. Set ID2, smoothing group 2. Looking awesome. All right. From here, I'm going to just bridge it over here like that. Connect as many of these as I can without adding more. And what I'll probably do is just so I could make sure I don't risk any kind of surface flaws, I'm going to cap that. There we go. ID2, smoothing group 2. There we go. Now we're just making it nice and easy, not too busy. It's a very simple surface to kind of bridge and like fill in the holes with. All right, so over here, I am just going to bridge out right there. So here, 5 points. I can get away with just capping that off. All right. I'm going to triangulate that one. It's 4 points, but it does create a triangle. All right. Here, it's a 3 points, so I'm just going to do cap. And these are just quick little modeling shortcuts and like workflows you develop over the years. But again, pinches, don't care. It's looking good. That's the 3D printer to worry about. All right. So far, so good. I am going to bridge these across. All right. I only need one segment there. Perfect. So as you see, slowly getting there. Closing it all off. All right. Perfect. And let's see here. Make that. What I'll probably do is connect this because we do have this like, whoops, tight corner right here that I do have to make sure I have a segment to triangle. There we go. Awesome. And what you can do, because right now if I select on top of a mesh, see how it like distorts? If you click on this button right here, now you can literally just drag and like drop or magic wand a whole selection. So I'm just going to select those, smoothing group 2. And there we go. We just totally created that whole surface area. We capped off that. Let's kill this little pocket right here. All right. I'm going to just bridge across. Okay. Cut there. Triangulate that. Now, as I mentioned, if I could offset it like this and make life easier to be able to see where the cut lines are. Perfect. I'm going to cut that off. Select these two grow. Smoothing group 2, set ID2. There we go. Now we're slowly filling it in. So there's that. We have a big pocket right there. So I could either just leave it and just make the flanges out, or I could bridge it out. I think I'll leave it for the moment. Let's go in, get rid of this detailed little corner. Perfect. So let's see here. I'm going to just cut it up right there. All right. Shoot it back. And honestly, I think I get away with doing the bevel modifier. So same thing. It just extrudes and bevels at the same time. Sometimes if you have polygons too close, it creates geometry issues. So that's why I don't use it often. But for the sake of this part, we can get away with it. So there we go. Perfect. All right. Now this one. All right. So now let's just do this beast. This is the annoying one. This is the most busy area. with like connecting parts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna send it with a bridge and see what happens. So I am deselecting the outside segment, just kind of BSing my way through it, and I threw a bridge on it. So we have a lot more polygons selected on this side than we do on this side. So let's see here if I deselect these. Less triangles. Less triangles. I'll probably try to skew it off over there. Okay. This is not going to be pretty, but whatever. So set ID 2, smoothing group 2. Let's take a look at how this looks like. So now when you're laying down the carbon fiber, yeah, it ain't pretty, but you know what? It might work just fine. The only problem is this has like an upward lump right here. So what I'll probably end up doing is, alright, so I'm just going to do a connect. I'm going to select these and raise them up to kind of help this area right there. So just raise it up a bit, and then I'll honestly go in and connect these to lower it, so that way I could just manually work with less and create this little offset. So let's see here. If this works out, this will be great. It'll be a very easy easy way to work with this really annoying centerpiece. So I'm just connecting, perfect. Alright, let's take a look at what we have here. So yeah, it's messy, but our actual part is beautiful. So okay, don't care. So now let's see what we could get away with over here. And you gotta really pay close attention to what you're doing so you don't accidentally mix up the parts and the flanges. So I'm right away assigning material IDs so I don't accidentally mistaken the part for no part, if that makes sense. Alright, so now what I'm going to do here is just do connect, but with a bunch of them. So a few more segments like that, just so I have things to kind of bridge to. Alright. Cap this off. Go in, again, right away, identify the flange areas from the model. Perfect. And almost done. That's awesome. We flew right through that one. It ain't pretty, but it worked. Alright, cap. Set ID 2. See here? Perfect. Beautiful. Alright. You just throw the fibers wherever the hell you want on that one. So let's see here. That I can bridge that. What I'll do here is actually select these, and I'll connect it by like 2 segments like that. Reason why I did that is so that way I could bridge over there, and now I could close these off. Oh, I don't like the way this triangle's forming, so I'm just gonna connect that there, so I could bridge over there. And see this, how we get a random shade. What I'll probably do, even though I don't have the scan model anymore, I'll just offset this myself, just so I don't have that dark shade, because that just did not look right to me. It could have just been, you know, a little flaw in the scan data. It happens, so it's cool. A little quick hiccup fix, no big deal. All right, that's looking good. And see, we got a little pinching over here in the actual geometry from like the modeling stage. So I'm just gonna go in, try to fix that there. And see what we can get away with. That made it better, and my buddy could just sand that down, whatever. No big deal. Little prep work. Alright, so material ID 2, polygon ID 2, there we go. Awesome, and one little pocket left, and the center is done. Alright, so let's take a look. Oh, beautiful. We could bridge that to that, that to that, there, and cap this little sucker off. Alright, 2 and 2. Done. Awesome. So we are almost there. I think I'm just going to cut right across. So from over here all the way down here. And now as you can see, here was based on the scan data, some kind of little pocket thing, whatever. I don't know. I don't have the engine cover in front of me anymore, so I'm just going to respect the design based on what we retopoed and set material ID 2 and smoothing the group 2. And just again, to mention, the smoothing groups and material IDs, they do not go hand in hand. You can make that whatever you want. I just like to wear it kind of like numerical order, so that's why. Alright, I'm just going to cap that off. So 2, clear all, assign 2. Beautiful. Alright, so now I'm just going to bridge that off. Bridge that across there. Bridge that over there. So this is just kind of where just when you model for a while, you can see what you can get away with and what makes better sense to bridge in what direction. So now I'm just going to bridge that there, and we just close that off. Alright, and smoothing groups 2. There we go. Perfect. Alright, and again, this one could get a little messy to figure out how to trim it. So I'm just going to create a little reference thing. So a little bevel. Alright. Delete these out. See how this is where I mentioned why I don't like the bevel too much. It creates those flaws. Because this is the flange, I could go in and quickly just offset it and fix it. But in my normal modeling workflow, I don't like to use bevel. It's just, it's too problematic. But I'll just quickly offset these things like this and we're good. Alright, and then the trick is when you do the bevel, it does change the smoothing properties of the inside. So you want to select all, grow, go in, clear, and assign to. So that way we have that little crevice. Alright, so for the most part, we are done and good. So now, I don't know how Nick's going to infuse it. I assume top to bottom. So here's my personal thing. For side flanges where the gum tape goes, I usually like to give it 50 millimeters. So I just create a little reference plane, so 50-50. And that just gives enough space for carbon fiber to fall off and the gum tape. It's a little tight, so I'll probably give Nick 70. He likes a lot of flange. So there we go. I'll make that 70-70. So see, I'm just making that. Now I'm going to copy this. Usually for my resin stuff, I do like 70 as well. It should be plenty for him. So I'm just going to leave it at 70. And then here, I'll do 70 as well. Because here, like if it was me doing, I'll put the vacuum line right down the middle or whatever. Because there's all this negative space that's not even the geometry anymore. So now that we have that, it's time to just really extend the, so I'm doing border tool. That makes it a lot easier to select. So I don't have to manually go in and do it. Alright, I'm just going to select these segments right there. Go all the way. And again, this is just how you almost just visualize the flange. So I'm going to shift drag, extend those edges there. Go into the left view and click View Align. And that just makes it a perfectly straight flange. Reference, see how I have that plane? I'm just going kind of roughly to the edge of that. Perfect. Alright, so now we have our flange area. Now as you can see, some areas it looks fine, some areas it's annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deselect this for the moment. With this area selected, I am going to the modeling tools. I am going to the loop tools right here. And there's a button that says relax. Just click that a few times. And it does exactly what the word means. It relaxes the edges. So now the flange is nice and smooth. It got rid of that little crevice, right angle, all that crap. So I'm going to do set ID 2 and polygon or smoothing group 2, and let's take a look at how that looks. All right, that looks good. for the moment, I'm going to leave that as is. Now we do the same exact thing for this side. So let's see how far we could go with the selection. I'll probably go right over there. Right up to here with that. Let's extend out. Yeah, that's fine. We can get away with that. All right. Do the same thing. View align. Boom. Now go in, extend it out. So there we go. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is kind of isolate the areas I'm going to relax. So first, I'm just going to select this little stuff right here. Relax them. Just keep clicking through it. Then I'm going to go over here and relax that. Perfect. Now I'm going to do loop. Hold control, click on the polygon. It makes a selection of everything that's like connected to that edge. ID 2, polygon 2. There we go. So now we have the side flanges done. So now it's time for the top. So same thing. Now I'm just going top and quickly deselecting by holding Alt and making a selection. Just like a lot of the programs out there, Alt is a deselect, Control is to add. Alright, and now you can also do, instead of, if you don't want to do view align, there's also these X, Y, and Z hotkeys for making the edges planar. So you can just click through them and see which one's what. So Y is the one we want. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm just going to extend it out and then we'll figure out how wavy or bumpy it is. So shift drag and then Y, boom. So there we go. Now we have that. So now we gotta make sure this is nice and smooth. So selecting all these, and I'm just gonna click relax and just skip right through it. Keep clicking until things do look nice and smooth and relaxed. Smoothing ID 2, polygon 2. There we go. That area is looking nice. Same here. Click relax. Just really let it blend itself out. Perfect. All right. And same thing. Smoothing 2, ID 2. All right. So now we have that. Here's the deal. This is messy. Like, this is nasty looking. Same thing goes for here. So what I'm going to try to do is manually fix it now. So I'm going to select like this vertex, turn on the edge constraint, and just drag it out. So now I am going to manually space these areas out to try to make the transition a little friendlier on the final result. So same thing goes here. So you can see like this is kind of almost going inside of itself, and you don't want that. Like it'll work, it'll 3D print, but if you can make it look better and smoother, why not? That could just make the 3D printing process more of a pain. Alright, so there's that. See, now we have this one also kind of going on the inside of itself. And I'm just dragging these out. Not much to it, just extending it out. Alright, so yeah, it's not the prettiest, but it's a lot better than it was. So that's fine. Now over here we have a similar issue. You could either, like right here, you could either connect this segment or just leave it, and I'm just gonna leave it. I don't care. That's fine. No, because that creates some bridging issues. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to delete this polygon, this polygon. I'm gonna do a swift loop. And then I am going to delete these two. I'm going to bridge that out. Make sure you don't do what I just did and accidentally move it. Alright, and I'll just select this right there. Okay. And I'm just going to bridge that. And again, make sure you remember to right away separate these out. Perfect. And what I'll probably end up doing here is not even there. I'm just going to go all the way up here because now when I bridge it from there to there and from here, so as you can see, we have a lot more faces here than we do here now. So I could go in and like select a handful of these segments, control backspace, delete, bridge. There we go. That's an even distribution. So now I'm just going to select these edges, relax, and actually I don't even need these segments right here. So control backspace, just these out here, relax, and now I could bridge these right over here. Smoothing group 2. All right. So there we go. So as you can see, that fixed that problem area. All right, so now the last thing is this little flange. This is just going to be annoying to stick gum tape to. So now that I have it all laid out, I'm just going to turn on the edge constraint, and I am just going to manually round it off. Just keep dragging it all the way out like that. And as you can see, it just naturally distributed the vertices and segments, where now this is going to make it easier to stick the gum tape to. So now, I'm not 3D printing it, so what you can do is go in, once you have your like base done, extend it like another, let's say here is 20 millimeters this way, another 20 this way, something like that, another 20 that way. This way you have literally a flat, even surface for the gum tape to stick to. So now I'm just going to select the border tool. I'm going to make this material ID 2. And this is where I mentioned the whole smoothing group. So right now, I can make this smoothing group 2, and it all blends out evenly. But if I really want to make sure that the gum tape area is going to be nice and flat as can be, I'll select these and make it smoothing group 3. And then do the opposite edges like that. Deselect those because those are number 3. I'm going to make these insides number 4. So now my gum tape area is literally going to be razor sharp and perfectly straight. So okay, that is our flange area. That is our mold surface, more or less ready to slice and 3D print. But now we need depth. Because in 3D, you need depth. You can't just print a 2D mold. It's just not going to happen. We're not doing base mode here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first save it. That way I don't lose all the work. Key ingredients, saving. All right. Now I'm going to duplicate my geometry. I'm going to hide it. So I have a plugin I got. It's called Shell Pro Modifier. And Shell Pro 3D Max. And I like this one because it kind of allows you to extrude and create depth a little better than the normal shell modifier. So this is the website where you could buy it. It's not expensive, totally worth it. So I am going to use that simply because I just don't care. This is a tutorial of me doing what I do. You could use a shell, you could get away with it. But for molds that are very busy, it's an annoying modifier that's not as good as Shell Pro. So I'm just adding Shell Pro, and it works in your standard units, whatever they are. So for me, it's millimeters. I like to usually do 10 to 15 millimeters for depth. So there we go. We're going to extend it inward. And now, as you can see, you can start seeing your model. And if you hold Alt press X, you do an X-ray mode. And this allows us to see through it. So now I'm going to turbo smooth on top of that. Make sure smoothing groups are on. And that is our mold. Now, depending on how you want to execute it, so as you can see, okay, we have some kind of issue right here. So I'm just going to go into here, and this is from the shell. Just it's extending it and creating a problem. So this is what you want to do. You want to inspect your actual surface to see how it's doing it. So I believe there's like, well, first of all, I don't want any bevels added, so I'm taking those off. And then here it's like self-penetration. So there's these settings you play with. So what I'm going to do is just kind of play with these to see what's doing what. and what I could adjust to kind of offset things. So let's do something like this. All X. All right, so that's looking good. Nothing we well, here we go. See again, this is why you got to check it. So what I'm going to do is actually some unfortunately tedious work. Sort of. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is just manually create the backside. So I am going to select these edges. This is a very complex thing. I am just going to move them all the way down. I'm going to view align it from the top or press the Z button. So as you can see, now we are right around there. Now I'm just going to do another swift loop, edge mode, and move it down. So here we go. This is 10. So where the gum tape goes, I usually like to use clamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that ability for Nick to do as well. This is just, it's not a very friendly mold, but this is great for the tutorial because you can see how you can troubleshoot complex areas. Now hold shift drag or control shift drag down. Make sure you flip this. There we go. Now I am going to select both of these borders, hold control, press on the vertice mode, and now click the weld. Now I'm just going to do 0.001 millimeters, so anything that's like literally touching is going to weld. So that's the back side of this. Alright, now I'm going to do select by angle, make sure that's a number 2, and we got to make sure these are also 2, so that way you could literally see what's the flange. Now I'm going to go in and make this like smoothing ID 9, just so I'm far away from everything else. Alright, as you can see now we are starting to get somewhere. We have some depth in our mold. So for the sake of this, I am going to just go, well, we got to do the same thing on this side. So unselect by angle. Alright, select all these, bridge. Now I am going to do this like that. Hold Control and Shift with snapping tools on. Snapping tools, yeah, it's S. If you right click on here, change it to vertex from whatever you have, and you just click and drag, click flip again, border tool, control, press the vertices, click the weld, there we go. So now we're slowly closing off our mold, perfect. Alright, so now I'm just going to bridge all the way from there to there. Now as you can see we are penetrating the mold surface, so I'm just going to quickly connect and just kind of offset away. Perfect. Move this down like so. Alright. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Bridge. So see we are penetrating, so just offset, offset, and now as you can see we are going to penetrate the top of our mold. We don't want that, so we're going to select that whole edge right there and just move him down. This is where it's just kind of the best way I can say is building an eye for seeing what you're seeing. Once you know what you're looking at from a 3D perspective, it gets very easy and user-friendly to move around through this stuff. But at first it could be very just intimidating and very just annoying and busy. So I am going to just bridge that like so. Perfect. And so what I'm doing is almost like a tabletop. It's annoying, it's going to use up a lot of filament, but the way I see it, this is kind of the easiest way to create this, this mold, unfortunately. So I'm just going to do, just to be safe, another view align. And let me see what we got going on here. So let me see if I could just scale these in. So as you can see, I could get away with scaling it in kind of like that to use less filament. So I'm just going to do that right there. And then I'm just going to scale. Alright, so now with that vertex, blah, 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 blah. All right, we're going to do ID2, and for the sake of a smoothing group 10. So now as you can see, we're starting to create like our own little bucket. Now, all we got to do is close this off. So this is where you can figure out how you want to work. So for the sake of this one, I'm just going to create a bridge. I'm going to go in and make a selection, and now it says 12 edges. So let's do this. So let's connect, and I don't remember how to read it. I'm going to just 10. I think it might be adding 2 more. Now let's see if we bridge. So we just need 1 less because it was 2 to 1. So let's do this. Instead of 10, let's do 9. Oops. All right, and now let's see if that did the trick. Nope. Okay, so we're going to do 11. So we just add 1 more than it should. Yep, perfect. All right. Now I am going to do the same exact thing over here. So what do we got? 14. So let's do 15. I think that's what we had to do on that side, was add 1 more. So we have more than we need. Oh boy. So let's do 13. Perfect. It's -2, is that what it is? Alright, so 17, or is it -1? 16. Let's do 16, see if we get lucky. If that's the formula, then that's perfect. Awesome. There we go. Alright. So now as you can see, we got some weird stuff happening right here, and you don't want to leave that because that will create issues when 3D printing. So I'm just going to select this polygon, hold Control and press vertex mode, deselect those, Control C. Well, that's my shortcut. You'll probably have it something else, whatever you want to set it to. But I am doing the same exact thing here, and I'll actually break it up like so. So that way it's less stress on the stretching. And this is just, I mean, this is just sloppy work now. It's just getting to the finish line, if you will. So again, this is the back side. This is 3D printed. Doesn't matter. This is not our actual hero surface. This is just making a 3D object that will 3D print. So you can make it a lot cleaner. You can make it even messier. It's really up to you. It's just, this is how we get to the finish line. So for me, the most important area is right here where we clamp it off, where I would clamp it off with the hose connected. So all right. So let's just do this. All right, our formula is -1, so we got to do 18 segments here. 18 segments. That's perfect. Now that is working. All right. So what are we at? 25. That means 24. Now, as you can see, that is working great. All right. And last but not least, 32. So 33, or -1, so that's 31. All right. Perfect. So now that we have that, we're going to go in and select this. Again, just offset a few of these, make it easier on the program, create less surface issues, if you will. There we go. Almost at the finish line. Now I'm just manually connecting these segments. Now let's take a look at it. That's fine. That's good. All right. That is it. Now we have a fully enclosed 3D object ready to be 3D printed. So let me just confirm that it works. I'm going to pause the video and put it in Bamboo Studio. Oh, and to do that, You go to File, Export, you click Export, and I'm just going to go to Desktop. There's a folder that I have here called STLs. This is where I put all my STLs. Alright, here we go, and I'm just going to call this engine cover. STL. Well, let's do RCF engine STL, and you just leave it as whatever it is, selected. Alright, now I'm just going to put this bamboo and double check that it's good. Alright, here is the monster. Well, I sure as hell am not going to slice it, but the good thing is it's not giving us anything about, oh, your geometry has issues, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare to 3D print. That's a lot of stuff. That's not my problem. That's my friend's problem. But that's how you make flanges in 3D Max. And the one thing I will say, okay, so here's the key ingredient. See how these corners are rounded? I personally do not like that for 3D printing. So what I like to do is, this is where the whole smoothing group stuff comes in. We're going to go in, select by angle. We're going to select these. Make it like material ID 18. This is where I just send it with random values just so I know it's not going to be selected. So there we go. Now our corners are nice and straight. And one other thing I like to do to make sure that it is perfectly straight is go back and do view align. So that way when you do slice it to 3D print, you could lay it perfectly flat on these faces. So you could print it upright, if that makes sense. So there you go. That's making flanges on your 3D part in 3D Max. And yeah, this is definitely a more complex object than what I usually deal with. But that was a great way to make a tutorial on making very annoying flanges. I mean, it would be way more annoying to do it with cardboard or whatever. So guess pick your poison. But done. Hope it helps.